Good morning and welcome to Mount Vernon Unitarian Church. I am Phyllis Gilmore, a member of this congregation. Whether this is your first time with us or your 1001st, know that you are welcome here and that we are glad to have you. We are continuing to offer services online and in person, and we are glad we can provide this forum, both in person and virtual, to provide comfort and recommit ourselves to the mission of supporting one another in our spiritual journeys, working for justice, caring for the earth, and building the common good. We gather to recommit ourselves to dismantling systems of oppression and injustice. It is good to be together. I would like to welcome Reverend Ebony Peace, our community minister for social justice, to our pulpit today. And she would like me to remind you about the workshop. Join us after services for a Writing Your Own Obituary workshop. This workshop invites us into profound acts of self-reflection, empowerment, and goal setting. In the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey explains habit number 2 as begin with the end in mind. In this spirit, we will create the first draft of our obituary and reflect on ways in which we can align our current actions with our final goals of how we wish to be remembered. Finally, please continue to look to your emails, phones, and the website for continued updates about worship and other church happenings. And know that if you are ever in need, your church staff is an email or a phone call away. I invite you now to take a deep breath with me as we enter into this time of worship. This is the recipe of life, said my mother, as she held me in her arms as I wept. Think of those flowers you plant in the garden each year. They will teach you that people too must wilt, fall, root, rise in order to bloom. Now, please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing our opening hymn, number 298, Wake Now My Senses. Please remain standing, as you beautifully have, as we unite our voices to speak aloud the covenant of our community. These words are known both within our hearts and are on your order of service. Love is the teaching of this church. The quest of truth is its daily task, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek
Hello, everyone. I have to move my prop. Hold on. All right. I was reading some of the work of the Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh the other day, and his book called No Mud, No Lotus. And you may have heard that phrase before. He's kind of famous for that. But the idea being that without the mud and the goo, there can be no beautiful flower. And the more I looked at that and I thought about that and I contemplated that, I thought, that sounds like a really good story about Unitarian Universalism and our UU values. So I present our storyboard today, which I realize is very small, but go with me. So we begin with the mud, the goo, the nutrient-rich, dense stuff that is there and we kind of avoid sometimes, right? We don't want to get mud on our shoes, and if it gets under your fingernails, you got to work real hard to get it off. But without the mud, without all those individuals, congregations, or fellowships, children and youth and theologians and thinkers and creatives and religious educators and ministers and music directors and church administrators and building and grounds maintainers, there is no other thing, right? Without all of us. So we're going to be the nutrient-rich mud today. You're welcome. Then there's the root. This is a lotus root. I know. Have you ever seen the whole thing? Not just the beautiful slices with the holes in them that look really cool when you fry them? That's what the lotus root looks like. It's a big blob. I'm putting the big blob in the big mud. There. The root represents our UU history. All that has come before this very moment. All the thoughts, all the practices, all the pulling together of those things that make us Unitarian Universalist, or Unitarian and Universalist. Then there's the ever-important stalk. And I thought of our stalk, the piece that connects the root to the flower, our commitments, connecting history, community, world, and values. So maybe you could think of it as the covenant that we make between each other, between other UU congregations, between other UUs around the world, and maybe even with all the beings in the world. The covenant, the promises. And then what rests on the top of that stalk is the lotus. It's often a symbol of spirituality, spiritual practice, deep engagement with self and all that is. So our first petal on our UU values lotus represents love at the center of all that we do. Love at the center. There's that one. And then let's add our value of justice. Now, it may be small in this representation, but it is mighty. And without that particular petal, the flower is not nearly as bright. So let's add justice. All right. Equity, represented by this kind of reddish pink. Not just equal, but equitable, which means that each person has what they need to thrive. So if you are tall, you need a shorter box. to stand and look over the fence or to thrive. And if you're shorter, you might need a bigger box or a little more help. All right. Then let's talk about transformation. The idea that we can change ourselves, change the way we work together, that is part of our faith tradition, our religious practice, our spiritual practice of transformation, transforming ourselves and the world, maybe our institutions. There's transformation. I like that one. All right, pluralism. Again, the idea that there's more than one way to be in the world, and that there's wisdom that we can find in many, many, many faith traditions. Okay. Interdependence, that we are woven together. When we pull one thread, the other threads shiver and shake. That without each one of us, the web is less strong. Right? Every single one of us. All right, that was the orange one. I have a slightly wonky lotus. I'm fine with that. Green for generosity, and not just generosity of green money. We often think of it that way. Generosity of spirit, generosity of time and talent, generosity as part of compassion and engaging with the world. So let's add that. All right. There's our UU Values Lotus. From mud to blossom. So, now here's the really important thing, and it's a question for all of you to ponder in the week ahead. What if you, individually and collectively, lived your life all the time using these values, this history, the covenant, to make decisions? What would that look like? What would that feel like? What if you did that same thing as you react to what is happening in the world and within your own life? If you grounded those things in the mud and the root and the stalk of covenant and the values represented in that lotus? What would change? What would transform? That is our story today. Thank you.
You are now welcome to come forward in silence to light a candle of joy or sorrow. Bring our children out to their classes. Our reading this morning is Let Me Die Laughing by Mark Morrison Reed. We are all dying, our lives always moving toward completion. We need to learn to live with death and to understand that death is not the worst of all events. We need to fear not death, but life, empty lives, loveless lives, lives that do not build upon the gifts that each of us has been given, lives that are like living deaths, lives which we never take the time to savor and appreciate, lives in which we never pause to breathe deeply. What we need to fear is not death, but squandering the lives we have been miraculously given. So let me die laughing, savoring one of life's crazy moments. Let me die holding the hand of one I love and recalling that I tried to love and was loved in return. Let me die remembering that life has been good and that I did what I could. But today, just remind me that I am dying so that I can live, savor, and love with all my heart. We come now to the morning offering. At this time, MVUC asks each of us to show our spiritual and material generosity. Each week we share the plate with a charitable organization that you, our members, have chosen. This month we are sharing the plate with the Katie Tyson Fund for Youth and Young Adult Ministries. Created in memory of the daughter of Herb and Karen Tyson, who was killed in a traffic accident in 2009 when she was 21 years old, the fund is dedicated to kindling the sparks of leadership among Unitarian Universalist youth and young adults. It supports scholarships, grants, programs for youth, young adult projects, conferences, and community outreach, as well as attendance by youth and young adults at General Assembly and the UU Summer Seminar. I invite you to contribute whatever you are most comfortable with to the Katie Tyson Fund and this church community. If you would like to write a check for the offering, please make it to MVUC and in the memo line indicate what it is for. If you wish your contribution to go 50-50 to both the Katie Tyson Fund and MVUC, just write share. You can also go to our website or the other methods in the order of service to give directly. We are grateful for your donation. And now will the ushers please come forward for the morning offering. few days ago, I stumbled across something on Facebook that you might assume was a eulogy for a delightful 90-something-year-old lady, delivered by her daughter. I was enjoying hearing about the lady's life and was a bit envious of her adventures. That, in turn, reminded me of the funeral of a somewhat distant cousin of mine that I did not even know existed, and found out only because Grandma needed a ride to the funeral. After I heard that eulogy, I was upset that I had never had the chance to know that part of the family, even though they lived in the same county I had grown up in. It seemed that my mother and grandmother talked to each other about a great many things, including family and other things that they, for some reason, didn't share with me directly. I think they just assumed I sucked it up by osmosis. As the Facebook story neared its end, listeners were informed that the lady herself was there, alive and well. She and her family had decided that it was important to celebrate her life while she was still with them. I found that absolutely delightful. But it also brought up other memories. At my dad's funeral, the officiant was his mother's minister. Did not know Dad at all. The eulogy the minister delivered said far more about my grandmother than about him, talking about her hobbies and her interests, for instance. Mom and I had not been asked to contribute. Interestingly, the wake had been far more instructive and emotionally satisfying because friends and coworkers had so much to say about Dad to Mom and me. Those were neither my first nor last funerals. As I'm sure many of you know, I lost my husband last year. It fell on me to write his obituary and write and deliver the eulogy at his memorial, despite the fact that I had known him for more than 20 years and been married to him for more than 11. Doing that was harder than I thought it would be. There were so many details from hundreds of conversations and multiple road trips that had somehow disappeared out of memory. Luckily, I was able to consult with his brother about some details about his early life and a bit more with his nieces in Texas. His brother even sent me some photos, and he and Terry and their sister from their childhood. Then a couple of weeks ago, there was a gathering at work to celebrate anniversaries at the company. Those of us who have been there the longest got individual attention, and at 35 years, that included me. My boss's boss gave a little speech about me, and it felt weird. I kept wanting to interrupt to say, I was just doing my job. But that little old lady reminded me of that. Hearing about what you've done in your life, even if it's not the complete story, well, you're still here to enjoy it, is both a blessing and a curse. And all that has got me to thinking about some things that I should have done to preserve all the memories. We all have good stories to tell and to learn. Talk to your family members, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, siblings, children. Tell them your stories. As you might guess, I'm full of stories, just not all the ones I wish I knew or remembered. Label your photographs. Take notes about what you hear, and for your kids, a little simple genealogy might not hurt. And I hope all of you are living your lives in a way that will make for many good stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. Mama say, Mama sanu makusa. Good morning, Mount Vernon. Good morning, good morning. Our chalice has some personality today, doesn't it? I love that. I am Reverend Peace, Ebony Peace, your community minister for social justice. I am glad to be with you this morning. I have been reflecting on death and remembrance a lot lately. Last month, my 2 children and I attended Weekend on the Bay with the community at All Souls Unitarian in DC. And it was a beautiful retreat on the Chesapeake Bay filled with fun and food and worship and spiritual workshops. One of those workshops that I attended was about writing your own obituary. I found it so meaningful that I've brought my version of this workshop here to Mount Vernon. And as you heard earlier in the announcements, we invite all of you, any of you who can attend, to join us in the fireplace room in Holland Hall after service around 11:30. Earlier this month, I spent Mother's Day with family. We went to a lovely brunch, and then we ended the day at the movie theater. I was amazed. I was really amazed as I listened to my mother, who she will be 82 this August. She was singing along with the music in the movie. Now, I've mentioned to you before that she has dementia, but she remembered pretty much all of the songs in this new Michael Jackson movie. This movie with so much music and creativity, and I just want to dive into music as a concept for a moment. Some of you might know that when I'm not in the pulpit, I enjoy teaching part-time at 2 different colleges in Maryland. And one of the courses that I teach most frequently is Introduction to Sociology. And there's a concept in sociology called cultural universals. And a cultural universal, it's a pattern, a similarity, a trait that all societies and cultures have, hence the term universal. Some examples of cultural universals are the family unit, funeral rites, celebrations of birth, weddings, humor, the concept of personal names, and music. On the topic of death and remembrance, and while drafting my draft obituary in the workshop that I attended, I remembered thinking about what type of music and songs would I want at my funeral. I thought about how universal music is and the end-of-life concepts are to people in general. I thought about how I never attended a funeral that did not include music. Have you? Mm-mm. At most funerals, as I recall, music starts long before anyone even says a word. And that's just how important music is to the human spirit, how impactful music can be emotionally and biologically and all the way down to the electromagnetic frequencies of each note. And this reflection on music and death and how we are remembered connected to some news that I saw. It was about someone named Michael Jackson, who died 16 years ago. There might be a couple folks here who might have heard of him. Until about a week ago, according to the Billboard Global 200 and music streaming charts, Michael Jackson held, at the same time, both the #1 song globally, Billie Jean, and the #1 movie globally. And based on my research, the only reason why he's not at #1 anymore is because YouTube Music doesn't count toward these numbers. So Michael Jackson died at age 50. And so here we are 16 years after his death, and his music is at the top of the charts. People are celebrating him again globally. From London to Japan, there's these street parties. And as I shared earlier, music is a cultural universal. In Dubai, there was this massive Michael Jackson drone show featuring his image dancing in the sky. In the United States, people of all ages, people who weren't even born when he was alive, are making videos on social media featuring his music, his dance moves, and quotes about his humanitarian philosophy. So all over the world, people are honoring his memory in music. And some of them are also bringing up allegations from his past where he was accused of harming children. The truth is, at least as we know it, is that his home and personal belongings were raided and searched. There was a 1993 criminal investigation and civil suit where no criminal charges were filed due to lack of evidence. And then in 2005, a 14-week criminal trial where a jury found him not guilty, and he was acquitted on all counts. The only evidence, as I've been researching Michael Jackson, that I've seen of his behavior towards children is this very exhausting and inspiring list of humanitarian donations and projects that emphasized helping vulnerable children. When I was looking through the list of all the things he had done and all the donations and charities he created and gave to, there seemed to be not a year that went by where he didn't visit and donate to hospitals or use his fame and resources to help people, especially children. So when you have someone like Michael Jackson with such power and money and influence who goes out of his way to help children on one hand, and then on the other hand, you have a group of elites who seek to do the opposite here in 2026 to harm and exploit children. Seems like Michael Jackson might be a threat to those at the highest levels. As I think about that, I do want to circle back to why is he deeply remembered? He's remembered for all those things, the good and the bad. But why is he so deeply remembered in his death? Well, for one, I learned that after being burned severely while filming a commercial, he didn't stay in his hospital bed to rest. He visited and comforted other patients in the hospital where he was being treated. This experience for him inspired him to donate all the proceeds of the financial settlement that he received to this very hospital. It also inspired him to fund the short-lived but very valuable Michael Jackson Burn Center in Los Angeles. His experience recovering from a traumatic burn sparked his lifelong habit of visiting ill children whenever he traveled. And this is one of those examples where something terrible happened to him, but it seems that this terrible experience inspired him to have a unique compassion for the suffering of others. And this isn't to say that bad things happen for good reasons. I don't think that's the case. But what it does make me curious about is creative ways that I can take the energy, pain, disappointment, trauma, and tears from some of the most challenging experiences of my own life and transmute that energy into something beautiful and healing. Near the end of his life, he increasingly spoke out publicly and in his music against the exploitation of people and the planet by the hands of the wealthy corporations and elites in power. There was a prison music video version of one of his songs called "They Don't Really Care About Us." This music video version of the song that was based in the prison, it's different from the one you usually see on TV now that was based in Brazil. This other version, it was banned from primetime rotation. Banned. Why? Well, and I'm going to paraphrase from a media company called Revolt TV. This media company, they are a social justice, hip-hop culture company dedicated towards Black storytelling. And in their article, they wrote that this music video was banned because the corporate elites felt that it was too confrontational, too much raw footage of human rights abuses, too much raw footage of civil rights protests, riots, and it was too political. But if you ask me, it was banned because it was too real, too accurate, too honest, not sugar-coated in a way that mainstream media requires. Despite this disappointment, Michael Jackson kept speaking up and expressing himself through his music. And I think about how there's been times that I've been shut down and disappointed but I kept moving on. Something can slow us down, but we don't have to let it stop us. When I think about how I want to be remembered, I think about what I want to fight for, even if I don't get the outcome I want. Might it inspire someone else to try? Might they make it through what I couldn't? So I drafted my obituary with these thoughts in mind, and I remembered that there's power in the exercise of writing things down on paper. And I've done a lot of writing, I've done a lot of thinking, and I'm not a stranger to writing down my goals and affirmations. But there was one thing I had never written down before. Thoughts about what impact I would want to leave behind. And it's not done. I still only have this first draft, but this first draft has been so impactful. And I'm no Michael Jackson. I could dance a little bit, but I'm no Michael Jackson. But I've achieved great things that I'm proud of. I can relate to being told what I achieved was good enough, to stop striving to do more, to not be an overachiever. And the truth is, one of my brothers called me an overachiever when I was in high school or college. I don't remember if it was high school or college, but I do remember that it hurt my feelings. But now, when I think about how my brother shamed me for being ambitious, I remember the story of how Michael Jackson's record label shamed him for his ambition. Or you might say they gaslit him. His record label refused to pay for the short film music video called Thriller. You know, the one that broke all the records and changed music history forever, that Thriller. Despite the money Michael Jackson made for his record company, they said that his vision for the video would cost too much. They said he didn't need another music video because the album already exceeded expectations. It had an unprecedented 6 hit singles. Despite this, Michael Jackson was determined to pursue his high expectations for himself, even if his record company felt differently. He seemed to have so much creativity, and he didn't let his records label lack of support stop him from pursuing his vision. He came up with a unique solution to sell behind-the-scenes footage of the short film, music video Thriller, and between that creative solution and Michael Jackson investing his own money, he was able to fund the Thriller music video. And most of us know the avalanche of global success and groundbreaking everything that happened shortly thereafter. This makes me wonder, how often do we suppress our goals, creativity, purpose, because we want to shoot for the stars, but other people prefer to keep us mediocre? Or maybe our ambition triggers something inside them that makes them feel insecure. Maybe they feel we don't deserve it, that we aren't worthy. Michael Jackson's been dead for 16 years, and people are still literally dancing in the streets, in the theaters, and like him or not, believe that he is a good person or not, one thing we do know for sure is he is remembered. How might we want to be remembered? I believe it starts with what we do today. In the recent Michael Jackson film, Jafar Jackson, who plays the role of Michael Jackson, Jafar is Michael Jackson's nephew. So here's the nephew playing the role of his uncle in the movie. And to prepare for this role, Jafar Jackson was given access to many of his uncle's personal notes and possessions. And in a recent video, when asked if there was something he learned about his uncle while filming, Jafar said he had no idea that his uncle was so deep into manifestation and positive affirmations. The way Jafar described it, it seemed like this was one of his uncle's most relied upon spiritual practices. His uncle, Michael Jackson, wrote down everything he wanted to achieve and put sticky notes everywhere with positive affirmations on which he'd meditate daily. And this makes me curious about how I might better incorporate manifestation and positive affirmations into my own spiritual practice, a practice of being the person I want to be known for. March 2001, in a speech to students at Oxford University, Michael Jackson promoted his charitable initiative called Heal the Kids. And the Heal the Kids mission was to help parents and adults around the world to devote their lives to supporting children and ending the cycle of neglect. And in his speech supporting this charity, Michael Jackson said this: "In a world filled with hate, we must dare to hope. In a world filled with anger, we must still dare to comfort. In a world filled with despair, we must still dare to dream. And in a world filled with distrust, we must still dare to believe." In whatever time I have left in this world, I hope to dare to love, to comfort despite anger, to dare to dream despite despair, all the despair I see in the news every day. I hope to believe that the world can get better and that I can be a part of what helps the world get better. So can you. So can all of us. And after drafting my obituary, I created a vision board collage thing, and I have it printed out in my home office and in my bedroom, and I dusted off some affirmations I wrote a while ago to get them up to date and take out some things. And having it in front of me, there's something about seeing the words and the photos every day that seem to spark the universe into action. My draft obituary reminds me that I don't want to just be recognized at my funeral for what I've accomplished, my goals, how many children I have, but I want to be recognized for living my values. And most importantly, I want the impact of my service to live long after I'm gone. In 1992, when Michael Jackson was supporting the Heal the World Foundation at a press conference, he said this: "We have to heal our wounded world. The chaos, despair, the senseless destruction we see today are a result of the alienation that people feel from each other and their environment." This sounds like something a UU would say. Though Michael Jackson was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, he seems to share many of our UU values, particularly as it aligns with environmentalism. And I interpret this as a recognition of our value of interdependence. Not only are we all connected, but we should center love in all that we do. We must hold the earth, our earth, with reverence and respect. We must stop fighting each other. We each can, in whatever time we have left, be a ripple in the river of justice and environmentalism. I believe it. And then in 1994, through this same Heal the World Foundation, Michael Jackson met an orphaned, terminally ill 4-year-old child. Michael Jackson saved this child's life by paying for a liver transplant and covering the boy's medical expenses. I first learned about this when this person, this boy who's now 37 years old, he's a man now, he made a TikTok video about how Michael Jackson not only impacted his life, but saved his life. And I'm using Michael Jackson to illustrate remembrance and caring for the world around us because, I just watched the movie and everywhere I look, it's Michael Jackson this, Michael Jackson that, and it's top of mind for me. And just the joy in my heart of seeing my mother sing songs she remembers. And I'm not even trying to say that Michael Jackson was a perfect person. None of us are. What I have come to understand about his life and his death is that he is remembered. The accusations about him harming children are remembered. His unique style of dance and work ethic are remembered. The well-known facts of the abuse he suffered at the hands of his strict father are remembered. The good, the bad, and the ugly are remembered. Which one will overshadow the others? I don't know. But in 2003, Michael Jackson said this. He said, "Lies run sprints, but the truth runs marathons." Lies run sprints, but the truth runs marathons. It reminds me of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. quote, "The arc is long, but it bends toward justice." The way Michael Jackson brought rival gangs together to make the music video for his song Beat It, because he just wanted to encourage them to stop fighting each other. That's remembered. He lived, he died, and yet somehow his aura, his talent, the impact of his life is and continues to be a unique type of immortal. He had a tough childhood, in the spotlight, not being allowed to play, always working. Yet as an adult, he seemed to have poured a lot of resources into helping vulnerable children have better childhoods than he ever had. As an adult, he often spoke about feeling lonely. He was told he was ugly, and yet read positive affirmations every day to help mitigate this narrative as best he could. And he still had plastic surgery despite that. Does this mean his affirmations fell short? Maybe. But it does not mean we should not try. I believe we all should take action to be the person we want to be. Even if we don't feel it yet, even if it never comes to pass, we do our best. And there's a quote from an artist named Stephen McCraney. He says, "The master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried." So being the master of your life is about doing, even if you fail. It's about trying, even if you end up not achieving. And to me, this is a call to be creative, step outside the box, and be willing to fail in the quest to achieve your mission and your purpose. And that's what I love about this community. There are many ways in which we can lean into our purpose by being engaged here, by being creative, by stepping outside the box, by impacting each other here at Mount Vernon with the music of our hearts, by being willing to fail and try again as we journey together with intention, as we visualize and manifest our vision as a community of faith. I think this is what it comes down to, doing the best we can with what time it is we have left. For ourselves, for the beloved communities like Mount Vernon Unitarian Church, in which we are a part. Mama say, Mama sa, numakusa. May it be so. And now, Open your hymnals to 289, Creative Love, Our Thanks We Give.
We don't get a choice about any of that. But what we do have a choice about is giving thanks for the chance that we have to work on that. We have a chance to have hope.
Let us please join together to say the words we use every week in extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of hope, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
In closing, I leave us with a quote by Krista Tippett. She's an American journalist, author, Peabody Award-winning broadcaster, and in 2014, she was awarded the National Humanities Medal by President Barack Obama. Her words are these: "Enough of us, across all our differences, see that we have a world to remake. We want to orient towards that possibility. We want to meet what is hard and hurting. We want to rise to what is beautiful and life-giving. We want to do that where we live, and we want to do it walking alongside others. Go in peace."